Need a receipt of evidence.
The County Board of Supervisors, May 17th meeting notice and agenda was posted in the Government Center building in 2 places, posted on the county website on May 9th, 2022, and was published in a legal newspaper the week of May 9th, 2022. It was published on May 11th. In addition, on Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 11:27, the Office of the County Clerk distributed copies of such notice of meeting to supervisors and media via email or mail. The notice of amended agenda was posted in the Government Center, posted on the county website, and copies of such notice of meeting were distributed to the supervisors and media via email Friday, May 13th, 2022.
Constituted. Think you may be an option.
It does.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Brad Olson,
Here.
Doug Rowdy,
Here.
Steve Borndahl,
Here.
Ryan Wood,
Here.
Tracy LeBlanc, here, Dan Ruck,
Here.
Barbara McAfee,
Here.
Sharon Kelly,
Here.
Tim McConnell,
Here.
Amy Middleton,
Here.
Jay Luke,
Here.
Denise Lallier Prey,
Here.
Russ Arcand,
Here.
DJ Simmons,
Here.
John Bonaprise.
Here.
Everybody is here, Chairman.
Pledge allegiance. Supervisor Olson gonna lead us in pledge allegiance. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion on the agenda. I will move for approval. Motion made by Ron Price.
Second.
Second. Get it? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Matters offered for adoption on consent agenda. Let's see. Correction to the minutes of April 19th, 2022. What is the correction?
No, that's just
Oh, I thought
consideration
you-
of it, and if there were any
I thought you had a
corrections.
correction.
I think there's one correction. I'll make the motion to approve with one correction, all of those, but how do you want to do it?
Is there a correction?
Yeah, we have on the second page of our minutes, where it said Chair Luke called for a voice vote on the motion, and it should have been still Chair Nelson. So it isn't a big one.
The
One,
first
two,
paragraph, the top
three, four,
paragraph.
top paragraph.
Okay. With that correction in mind, need approval of the minutes of April 19th.
Are you going to, Mr. Chair, take the entire consent agenda? Normally, it's one vote for everything that's in there because they're considered
Yes.
non-controversial.
With that correction, we vote on the approving of the agenda for the 19th. All in favor?
No,
Aye.
on the consent agenda.
The
Consent.
consent
All
agenda.
of them.
With all
A, B,
of
C,
them,
D.
there's all 5 of them?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
The opposition, same sign. Hearing none, we're approved. Any public comment? Limited to 3 minutes. Here? or-
No public comment at this time.
We'll move on to the motion to go to the committee as a whole. I'll move. Motion made. Committee as a whole. Got a second?
Yeah.
Seconded by Rowdy. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. So we need corporate counsel. Need a presentation.
In that flash drive?
Yeah, you need it?
No, you need it. Pull it
Yeah,
up.
I've got it right here.
Okay. Can you share it? I guess, are there any folks that are attending this meeting virtually where we need to share it outside? Too? Or
We should, so just.
Just in
on
case
the
somebody
video.
hops on, okay.
Yeah.
And then it'll record it as well.
So it says new supervisor information, but it's also a refresher for those of you that have been here. And it's going to be brief. Last go around, we would do separate topics at various county board meetings and go into more depth. And I'm certainly willing to do that again, or maybe even expand on some of the things that those of you who've been here longer have already heard. But we can go to the first slide. So the rules of order, first we look to your rules of order that you approved at the last meeting that you'll formally adopt tonight. And if the question isn't answered by looking at the rules of order, then we go to Robert's Rules of Order. And this is a kind of a cheat sheet. You can't see it because I guess when it expands to this large, it's hard to tell, but I will email this to anybody who wants it. You can also find Robert's Rules cheat sheets, Robert's Rules for Dummies online. And that'll help you because certain motions can interrupt the speaker and stop debate, and it has to be addressed. If you think the chair has done something wrong, there's specific ways to do that, point of order. And so this is something that will help you, if you're not familiar with Robert's Rules, get some of the basics so you can work with parliamentary procedure more smoothly. Now, in our rules of order, the chair decides points of order with input from the Corporation Council. So if you think something isn't being addressed correctly, you have to ask the chair. The chair has the ability to consult with me, is not obligated to do that. And if you then disagree with what the chair decided on that rule of order, you can challenge the decision of the chair. And again, a cheat sheet, something like that, a card, and we can maybe have something laminated and handed out so everybody's working off the same version, if you would find that helpful. We can go to the next slide. So one of the things to keep in mind is that in Polk County, the board has decided to operate under a county administrator form of government. This is different from the way it was many, many years ago before Dana Fry came and became our first county administrator. Before that, we were an administrative coordinator form of government, which is one of the 3 forms that we have in Wisconsin. There's also an executive, that's really for like Milwaukee County. So with the differences, the nuanced differences between having a full-time employee of the board, because the administrator is your only employee. He's the only one that this board gets to say, hey, I'm your boss and I get to tell you what to do. You then can tell him to tell us to do stuff or ask him to tell us to do stuff, but you really don't have as a collective the right to say as a board, I'm directing that this particular public employee do this particular thing. So really, your only employee is the administrator. With the old form of government that we had, and actually our county board chair served as the administrative coordinator, the committees had a lot more day-to-day type oversight over departments. They would meet and they would hire and supervise and do evaluations for department heads. That's no longer the case. You've invested your trust into the administrator so that he can run department heads. His job is to formulate the annual budget and present it to you in a way that makes sense so that you can make appropriate changes to it, but he's the one in charge of that. The administrator is also the person who oversees all of the division heads. Now that we have a division model in Polk County, we have several division heads. You talked a little bit about that at the last meeting, but one of the things to keep in mind is that there are elected officials and constitutional officers that really don't answer much at all to the county administrator, like the sheriff, for example. He is a county employee, we pay his salary, but he is elected and he is invested with certain obligations to run his department and the jail. And so this board, while it has oversight over certain things, can't direct the sheriff to do anything and can't direct the administrator to make the sheriff do anything. And the same goes true for the clerk of court, the district attorney, and although to a lesser extent, you have some of the smaller departments, the treasurer. Again, these are county paid employees, but they are not anyone that you have direct oversight over as a board. In the district attorney's office, the DA is not even paid by the county. The attorneys in that office are all state employees, but all of the staff are county employees. So there's a budget component that the county has, but really when it comes down to how they manage their office, it's up to those constitutional and elected officials. Let's see. Okay. If you're really curious, you can read all of chapter 59 in the Wisconsin statutes, and that talks about all of the county positions and what the county has authority to do. We can go to the next slide.
Wasn't Frank Brascarella just plain administrator?
Pardon?
Wasn't Frank Brascarella?
No,
just
he
plain-
was a finance director, I think was his title. He was
Really?
not an administrator. Before Dana Fry, the county board chair served as the administrative coordinator. We did not have an administrator. So ethics and fiduciary responsibilities. So if you look at chapter 19.59, that is the statutory code for ethics of local elected officials. It really speaks mostly to financial interests and making sure that you are asking to recuse from a vote if you had any type of financial stake in a particular outcome. And while we're on the topic of asking to abstain, one of the things you need to keep in mind is you have an obligation to vote because you've been elected to make a decision. But there are times when there's a conflict and you have to ask permission to abstain. Let's say it's a voice vote and all in favor say aye. There's a whole bunch of ayes. All those opposed, same sign, and there's nothing. That is going to be recorded as a unanimous voice vote. So just by saying, I'm just not going to make a noise, you are not actually abstaining. You need to ask permission of the chair of a committee or this full board if you found that there's a reason why you need to recuse yourself or ask to abstain from that particular vote. At any time, I am here to serve as an advisor when it comes to some of these rules of order. And I don't mind if you ask the chair's permission. I have a question for Corporation Counsel. If I have the answer, I'll do my very best to give it to you. If I don't have it, I'll try to find it for you. But we are here as a resource, Mr. Loso and I. If at any time you want to email us or give us a call when it comes to those procedural questions, we're more than happy to try to work through some of those things. Other ethical responsibilities outside of Chapter 19, you have your own code of ethics that was passed, I think, in 2008. My understanding is that the committee system is going to be taking a look at whether that needs to be updated. But again, most of it has to do with financial concerns, but there are some other things in there. In addition, you have to think about your responsibility as a member of the board once the board makes a decision. Because we are a municipal corporation and loosely governed by the ethical responsibilities of corporations. So in some circumstances, you might have affiliations or alliances to two different organizations. A good example is the Fair Society. We've got Tracy LeBlanc. She is a member of the Fair Society board, and she's also a board member here. And so she's got responsibilities really to both, to not violate the confidentiality in a closed session of the information she learns here or the information she would learn there. The same is true if you're a member of some other type of organization and you felt like your decision here was not what you want because maybe you were actively working against it. But once the full board makes a decision, I'm not talking about while you're debating, but once a decision is made, and then there is an obligation to not do anything to try to undermine that decision. You can certainly ask to change the decision, reconsider the decision, or make a different decision later. But those are just some things to think about. Now, there really are no teeth in those obligations. This is about your own internal moral code. I mean, if there is a violation here, it's not something where you're going to be fined or anything like that, but it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, the next slide. So the open meetings law. So this is really important. And one of the things in Wisconsin, it is the idea of transparency and open government is paramount. So we have, as the citizens of this state, the right to know how business is being conducted. The whole goal of the open meetings law is so that decisions aren't made in secret. Of course, there are times when closed sessions are appropriate and there's statutory reasons for having, behind the scenes discussions when you're talking about personnel matters. You can think of the reasons why there might need to be a closed session. But in general, decisions need to be made here at the meetings and not on social media. But one of the things that can be very difficult, we are all now in this social media age. If a supervisor has a Facebook post and says, I think X, Y, and Z about a topic, and then another supervisor comments and says, well, I think similar. And by the time you get a few of those supervisors, all of a sudden you have people deciding to vote in the same way or take a certain type of action, and there hasn't been the meeting. And so that would be a violation of the open meetings law. So if you do comment on each other's posts on social media, keep it social, keep it about how, friends and family are doing, but keep county business discussed at the county board. When we're talking about whether there is, because a meeting can happen even if it's a whole bunch of little mini meetings in a row. It doesn't have to be getting together at the same time. It can be, game of telephone, you call you, and by the time we get to a quorum, which is enough to make a decision, then you violated the open meetings law. So that's something to watch out for. Texting, social media, emailing, telephone calls. Sometimes you will get information that is sent to you. Maybe a member of the public says, you know what, I'm going to email every single county board supervisor because I feel very strongly about this topic. And then you accidentally hit reply all. So then you've just responded by copying every other county board supervisor. So what we try to do as staff, when we send out important information that you need to know, we blind copy all of you so that if you accidentally hit reply all, you're not having a little meeting on the side. But keep in mind that members of the public that might email you might not do that. So just keep an eye on that. Change it to blind copy if you just wanted to respond to the people that are emailing you. If there's half of the folks here, so here we've got something called a negative quorum. But if there's 8 of you together in a series of meetings, all at the same time, at different times, but collectively talking, that's going to be presumptively a meeting, even if it was, by chance. So another thing to keep in mind is the pre-meeting meeting. I got here, 15, 20 minutes before this meeting started. And some of you also did too. And if enough of us are here and start talking about county business and the meeting hasn't started, that's a problem. Or the after meeting, everybody goes downtown and decides to have a beer after the meeting, and then they start talking about county business. And if there's enough of you there, it's just something to keep in mind. I think that's pretty much it on the open meetings. The last slide is public records. And I really only have one admonition here when it comes to public records. Everything, now that you are an elected official here, everything that you do as it relates to county business is a public record. We encourage you to use your county email for county business. That way, if we get a public records request or all emails about this particular topic, we can search our server. If you customarily use your personal email to receive information about county business, to send emails about county business, your personal email is now subject to search under public records law. So, yes.
So I do a lot of work on my iPhone. And I don't want to because that's like, okay, so is there a different option than using a personal?
So in the next few weeks, we've purchased new yoga books for all the board members, and we're going to have IT training for all the board members, and we've got the new books available for people. So we'll be putting that out in the next few weeks for everybody.
Because it extends to digital equipment.
To stuff, yeah. Yes.
But you can use your county board email on your equipment, right? And you're
Right.
still okay. Yeah, except for I'm using.
As long as you
authoring program.
don't save to electronic media on your device.
Yeah.
That's the catch.
That was my question. So we can put, like Sharon has for town of St. Croix Falls on her phone, can we put our county email on our phones and have it?
our servers won't let us do that.
Okay, so there's a technical reason why we can't, yeah, but, okay, because I had my hunch. And then when we went to Office
Yeah, you
365,
don't
I
want to do
couldn't
that.
do it anymore.
You don't want to do that anyway.
It's just one of those things that you might not even really think about. It might not seem like a big deal, but if, a citizen then has a question, wants to know everything any supervisor sent or received on this topic, and you use any of your personal email, and it's going to be subject to search for those records. But yeah, that's all I have today. Any questions or ideas, topics for future?
You just get agendas and the sort on your personal email and you don't do any county business.
Right.
That's
So if
acceptable.
if we are sending to your personal account, because that's the one you're gonna see right away, because you check it more often, and you're never responding, we're still gonna have those records on our servers because we sent that. So if you're getting an agenda and never then communicating with anybody else, you're okay. But we still prefer that you use your county email for everything, but then as long as you're not interacting with that email, you're fine. Yes.
On our, well, it might be better on the next one, but you had the deal on voting. And I'm reading our rules of order that says, well, if you don't vote, it's negative automatic. Is that a
Right.
Robert's rule or is that ours?
That's ours.
Okay,
That is our
and that'll
rule.
come up in the next one.
But there would be no way for the clerk to go, did you say anything? Did your mouth move when we voted? So that's why if
Or even
you,
a roll call or anything. I mean,
Right, you
if
can't abstain,
Don't vote,
right.
it's automatically negative, is what we have now.
right, unless the clerk can't tell that you didn't vote because only the people that voted raised their voice, because it was all done at the same time. All those in favor say, right?
But I mean, what if it was a roll call? Is what I'm saying.
Then it would-
And you say I abstain, it's a negative vote.
It's a negative unless you ask for permission ahead of time because there was a conflict. If you receive permission from the chair because you have a conflict, like let's say you're voting on a contract that your wife owns the company for, hey, my wife owns that company, so I'm not going to be voting on this. And then you don't vote, that's not a vote in the negative. It would count against what you need for a majority, depending upon how many people are there that day. But it wouldn't, in that case, it wouldn't be counted as a negative. But if you refuse to vote, then it's counted as a negative.
And you would do that during the discussion?
You could do that at any time. You could let the chair know ahead of time, hey, I've got a conflict on this one. I'm going to be asking when the matter is called, as long as you do it before the vote and you're. And I would suggest if you do have a conflict, letting everybody know before even the discussion happens, that there's that. All right, if there are no
Any
other questions.
One more?
Thank you.
Thank you, William. 9, discussion regarding revision of the Polk County Supervisor. This one is specific. Who wants to address the chapter 2 order?
I've asked Chad to.
Kevin, will you pull that up?
Yeah.
The rules of order, will you put that up on the screen? One of the leaders. It's supposed to be on a thumb drive. Have this. Is a red line version.
That's just my thumb drive that he's looking at. You gotta look at the other one.
All right, do me a favor, go to the county website. Look the agenda packet.
You know, so it's got that section. But this.
Well, no, it's
this is
easier
so
to
we
do.
can't- you can say line 22.
I don't know a thing of what you're talking
Everybody,
about.
if you want it like this, though.
Yeah, that's.
Right here. Lots of it packet.
$600.
You scroll down.
After the meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
More of the story then.
That's what there is.
So we're gonna go over all of these.
My trouble. Right here was the one.
No, I agree.
Now it's all
But this is the one we're addressing outside of these.
Okay, Charles. He said, make sure I read it. Okay.
Yeah, she is, but
And then share it.
We get
Share it on
right now, building her
Yeah.
mother-in-law.
Trouble
I got all my electronics.
All right, so everybody recalls from April, the sitting board, the current board went through suggested revisions from the executive committee of the previous board with rules of order. So we went through those, we recorded those, and those have to be incorporated into the ordinance because that's one of our county ordinances. Kevin, can you blow this up just a little bit? And then so we'll go through them one by one as far as the changes, the red line changes. So one of the first things is we put in the rules of order, a biennial review of the compensation for the chair, the vice chair, the second chair, and the supervisors. That'll be done in August of every other year. So not this August, but the next August prior to the election. The duties of the county board chair under 225B. What was changed? The chairperson shall appoint each board member to standing committees using a process that incorporates fairness and tenure preference. The process shall be agreed to by a majority of the board members prior to the appointment. Before that, the chairperson shall appoint to 2 committees, and it was a little ambiguous whether the chair could just appoint whoever he wanted or whether there was a process. So now you all define a process just like we did last month, and then the chair uses that method. A clarifying point, this had become practice, but it wasn't in policy. The chairperson of the board shall serve on the general government committee. And practice that we now codified. Roll. All right. We struck K in the agenda of the county board meetings or meetings of subcommittee of the board, where you have to disclose if you have a conflict of interest under ethics, under the 2008 resolution for ethics, and under chapter 59 of the statute. You're supposed to disclose any conflict of interest. So that's implied just by the statutes. So we moved it from the end.
Are we gonna discuss any of this as we go, or how are we doing this?
Well, yeah, I guess, do we want to go over what was changed, agreed to, and then you guys go through and if you want
If
to,
there's any more, okay.
yeah. Resolutions, it's before introduction to county board and not after introduction to county board as far as being placed on an agenda. That just didn't make any sense. Not sure how it ever got after, but once again, for consideration before introduction to county board and not after introduction to county board. Once again, that makes no sense. Why you would do things with the horse not after. A wording change from corporation counsel, because you know they're picky on wording, they changed possible to practical. Because anything's possible with enough resources and time. Executive committee composed of 5 members, consisting of the county board chair and the chairperson from each of the 4 standing committees. Again, this had become practice of the previous board, but had now become policy. So that was voted on to incorporate into. And all these were the consent things from your last board meeting. Yes, we want to go with that. Environmental Services Committee. It removed the wording where the FSA representative can only vote on ag-related matters, and now the FSA can vote on all matters before the Environmental Services Committee. Which Supervisor O'Connell, I believe, it become practice anyway, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, the agenda before, and I think this was just something that got left in there. The committee chairperson was responsible for the agenda. Now it's in conjunction with the division directors for that respective committee. So we get the agenda together, run it by the chairperson to make sure they're good with it to go, and then roll it out. Of course, the administrators, the division directors implement it to the administrator who also has final say. Environmental Services Committee, B1, formerly UW, reported all activities to Environmental Services Committee. Now UW Extension will only be reporting on ag-related issues to Environmental Services Committee, which is required by statute, so it has to remain there. Environmental Services, B2, West Cap, West Central Regional Planning, and UW Extension, with the exception of ag, are shifted from environmental services to general government, which is in line with what we do with the rest of external agencies that are governed by general government. We struck the line quarry language. We no longer have that enterprise. For General Government Committee 1, again, UW Extension, exclusive of ag related. They have governance over this. Changed the name of the library system, just a formal change, and then added UW Extension, West Cap, and West Central Regional as areas of governance for the general government. I believe, not sure number 11 is correct here on this, is it?
Can't see.
General Government Committee shall serve as the Committee on Agriculture and Extension Education pursuant to Wisconsin statute, environmental services.
It conflicts,
Yes.
so one or the other.
Right. So,
There was some discussion about not wanting to split up the reporting.
right,
But I mean, if I were queen, I would personally think that it would make the most sense to leave ag in front of environmental services.
yeah.
But ultimately, the board has the discretion to assign that function to either committee.
So this is something for you guys to consider. Should that stay the General Government Services Committee on Agriculture and Extension Education? Or should that shift back to environmental services?
That's the only portion that is stated in environmental services, really.
It is, so that number 11 seems to conflict with what we previously did, but that's your guys' decision ultimately. So we should consider that one, Mr. Chair. Put in here, we just word in here, Parks, Recreation and Trails Department and the Recycling Center. And that's in regards to general government. Or public works, I'm sorry. So previously, the recycling center was not actually addressed anywhere. So it just randomly fell to general government. And we actually kind of floated around last year during all the discussions. So it's good to house it. And that would be it. So I think there's two, from my notes for what we did through the course of this year, there's two issues. Number one, should 11 regarding oversight for extension education, should that revert back to ESP? The other thing is regarding public comment, the board, there was a consensus that all committees will act in a uniform manner regarding how they accept public comment. You know, whether online or in person, those kind of things, the uniformity there. But you still have to answer that question. What does the board define as public comment? And then in what manner is public comment going to be accepted? In person only, in person and virtually, in person, virtually and writing, in person, virtually, writing, on telephone, combination thereof. And then all committees will act in accordance with that. So I think that's the really big topic left for tonight to discuss.
Back in our regular sessions, which two do we have to consider?
Whether environmental services takes over ag extension education and the governing committee, and then the public comment issue, which is
That was number 11, and where was public comment back?
number Public comment is in a couple different places.
There's one section specifically talking about public comment at the committee level and another section talking about public comment at Polk County Board.
All right.
So it'll be number 14 under Division 2, Rules of Order and Procedure, number 14.
Yeah, see, yeah, keep going.
We don't have, so it's page,
Page 9 of 13.
9 of 13.
or your packet number 10.
Stop
Oh, I don't have 9 of 13 on this.
On your packet, on this packet, the agenda packet page is 30.
Page one.
it. Section, section 2.81. The one they passed out tonight. Here's the one that we just-
I fixed the other one, all right. We do one. I asked the chair, we do one at a time.
This is the committee of the whole, so you
Well,
can,
we
Well,
can't
just
do
to discuss it,
anything.
here, let's not keep bouncing back and
You
forth.
want to discuss that in this?
I'd like to discuss number 11, that EC, that it goes back to EC. How about that?
To committee as a whole.
Just as a consensus to start there, then we can go to. the-
All right, let's general consensus then on
Public comment.
public comment for Parks Recreation. Oh, no, you
Public
want to go
comment.
back to public comment. That's on
No, he's talking about the ag.
And
Ag.
extension act.
Number 11.
Extension.
Environmental service. Yeah.
Let's say that number 11. on the
number 11,
Under general government.
right? Want to go back to environmental service.
so you would just have to strike that number 11.
Right, that's all we got.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
yeah, I was on the ag committee as long as I was on the county board. We had that different ag committee, that five-person board. And I certainly believe it belongs in environmental. I feel it has nothing to do with general government. Our environment, and ag, is just good marriage.
Makes sense. All right, a change on consensus on the next, who was making that? Wanted to change that
Yeah.
besides this one. This is strike 11.
Just strike it, we're done with it.
What else do we want to do?
Public comment.
Public comments. What do we want to do on that?
Gonna have a discussion.
We'll have a discussion and hopefully come up with a general consensus, shorten our meeting at the next day. Public comment. What do we want to do on that? Go ahead.
Yes.
I'll just move on with, I'm a big believer in public comment, so I'd like to see as many ways as we can have public comment, we should go with that.
As many ways as we can do it.
I mean, that's my suggestion, but we have to pick how many ways. You know, whether it's virtual and they're on Zoom or whether it's,
Okay. What kind of wording are you going to consider then under number 14? That's where you would make the change, correct?
I think you would articulate some kind of amendment to the rules of order that specifies public comment may be received in the following manner. And then you would say virtually, by telephone, in writing, or in person, however you want it to be. I think that would be the language you're looking for.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Would in person, Doug, in your opinion, would in person be by a, supposed to get room
well, it would have to be because,
like we have done?
yeah, because you can't come in here,
Right.
so. if Chad said virtually, well, that really is virtual. But that would be one of this.
I agree with that.
Well, that's
Here.
temporary, but I mean, when we're back into our normal digs,
Right.
is it practical then to do it live or is it still? I don't know. I mean, I'm just genuinely asking. I'm not advocating whether does live presentations then make sense? Or will it still make more sense to have the Zoom meeting upstairs?
Well, if you've got a small group and you've just got a few people, it works in the same room. Like when you have a public hearing and you've got maybe 2 or 3 people will be in, that works in the boardroom. But when you've got 100 people, then it works better to have them like in the West Conference Room or in the next conference room and do it virtually because where do you put them all?
So if I may, I believe when we say virtually, or when we say in person, we're talking about at the meeting site, whether it be in this room or the room
Yes.
next door.
Yes.
Virtually, we're talking about somebody at home or in another building, another location,
Zoom.
zooming in. Of course, in writing, the other option is like we have where somebody sends a letter and says, I want to submit this for public comment. As opposed to somebody who sends us a note that doesn't specify they want it as public comment. They're just writing us a hate mail or whatever they want to do. And then by telephone, could somebody call in, say, hey, you're meeting, I want to wait in line on the telephone.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Council Chair, if we were to open it up due to COVID and due to the remodeling situation and the restriction on element of room, and we're to open it up for having them plug in on TV and make a comment to us virtually, or and in person, obviously, which is the most logical. Can we change that after our all the remodeling is done and everything is done, or does that take 3/4?
So, well, you've got a couple of options. You could leave it at chair discretion. What's the most practical for the given situation, but then you're leaving it up to your discretion. So you could decide and say, now that we've got this beautiful new county boardroom and there's all this room, I want to change it, but then you'd have to decide in there to leave it within your discretion. If you codify it by saying we're always going to allow this, this, and this, then you would have to amend the rules of order in order to change it in the future.
Mr. Chair, what does it take to amend the rules of order? Is it 2/3 vote?
I don't mean.
It goes to the executive.
Okay, go ahead, Kim.
How about now for posting for the clerk then? How is that gonna work? If it's discretion, say you said today there's too many people, we're not gonna take it virtual. How do they post that? I mean, how do we legally post a meeting?
You would have to
We have to do it.
indicate in the notice, if everybody thinks they're allowed to call in or Zoom in, and then at the last minute it's changed. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying his discretion. I'm saying when he sets the meeting,
So it has to be posted that way. See, that's,
people need to know.
so you have to
How
know 2
they
weeks
do it.
ahead what you want to do. Leave it up to his discretion.
Well, some of the,
But I think we're gonna lose on virtual, we had people swearing at different things.
we've
How do we
had,
control that and then we cut it off?
correct, well, yeah, but we've had just about every experience there is in this public comment. One particular issue dominates the entire 30 minutes. We've had to try to control that, and it's almost impossible to do until you find out what they want to talk about and what their opinions may be. And and that's where we're going to have to cut off certain people or certain groups of people that would definitely eat it. There's many times we'd have eat up a lot more than 30 minutes in one issue.
So this would be a lot more work for the clerks.
Impossible almost.
But I have seen where if somebody wanted to appear virtually to speak during public comment, they would ask ahead of time and get a slot. So then you would know we've got, 5 people or 2 people have asked, you know who they are, you ask for them, you say, now this is your 3 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever. But again, that would impact their work.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
this is something that's been discussed pretty much in length and detail at our Wisconsin Counties Association. And there's a lot of counties that do not have any public comments. I'm an advocate of public comment, but there's a lot of county boards that this is strictly a business meeting, and they don't allow public comment. Like I say, I do believe in public comment as long as they're registered with the clerk, and so that they're identified in that way.
Well,
We've had the experience of
yeah.
real bad language that we had to cut them off.
Point of clarification, we don't presently register people for public comment.
I know, I just said that was what some counties do.
We did, but we're not present. And that is burdensome for the clerk.
Yeah, the clerk is overwhelmed the way it is.
And some, Mr. Bonner, oh, I'm sorry. Just one point that I thought about. Mr. Bonner Price brought up a good point. Some counties only allow, just for consideration, only allow public comment in committee, not at the county board. Some allow it at the county board and committee. Some only allow at the county board public comment on items on the agenda, noticed on the agenda. So there is a variety that you can adopt. Counties are kind of all over the place.
Everybody has a chance to contact their supervisor and get their intentions.
Well, we definitely need to continue public comment. And I don't think we need to limit them what they can comment on. They can comment on anything they want for 3 minutes. I do think though that it needs to be in person now. I mean, that we're here, no one wearing mask required, and they can be here, they can be in another room. We've made accommodations for that. We can't say that we're always going to be filming and having our meetings televised or available. I mean, we agreed to do that. We're doing it now, but we are definitely not locked into it. And I just think in person, they are in writing, they can write and send in a public comment, or in person. Comment.
Can I ask a question on that? What is the negative impact of allowing somebody to Zoom in rather than be here in person? So again, we talked about this at another meeting, or the first board meeting that I was at. If you have a single mom at home that can't come here because they have a child at home or something like that, what's the negative impact of allowing her to Zoom in to make her public comment?
Well, we've seen the negative impact. It's not the mom calling in with a sick kid.
Right, but if we don't do something
Just
because
But the mom can still call her supervisor. The mom can send a letter. The mom can write an email to the clerk, and that information gets to us. So there's other options besides just zooming in if you're not able to come.
don't you think it would be more impactful for that person to speak in person over Zoom rather than submitting something in writing or, via phone call or anything like that? Being able to actually talk one to many rather than having a limited voice on paper or things like that. It just seems like it's more easily dismissed if I get it in a pile of papers rather than if somebody's able to directly speak to the group.
Well, I'm on the transportation study group, and we just met today. I'm looking at the map of how many people in this county are over 60, disabled, or living at the poverty line. It's huge. And so what we do if we limit it, people who can afford the gas and the time to drive all this, and it's a big county, there's a lot of people who would drive a fair distance. I feel like what we're doing is limiting who gets to speak. Yes, you can write, but that's often a difficulty for people also. But to me, it just seems like it's especially in this day and age where Zoom is part of many people's lives now, to be a part of things. It's different than 3 years ago. So to me, it just feels like looking at the transportation issues that we're actually doing a whole study about, the fact of saying, well, just come, that automatically skews who we are hearing from in person, which is valued in a different way, I believe, than just talking to one person on the board.
What I'm still not understanding though is if speaking via Zoom might be somebody's preferred method of making public comment, and we're discussing why we don't want to do that, I don't understand. Does anybody have a reason why you don't want to allow somebody to use Zoom?
Well, it's not fun to hear some of that stuff that they come across with sometimes.
You said that they could also dial in over the phone. Could they not also say?
No, they can't dial in.
Can't dial over the phone.
They can call their supervisor over the phone, I said.
I would
But-
suggest this consideration of the supervisor approach. Number one, I would favor that. Go ahead, Brad. You.
Well, I just think if you're gonna allow people to Zoom in, then you have to make sure the people who are physically here get first chance. And the person at home knows if the half an hour is up, it's over with. You know, because I don't want somebody to drive here, wait for public comment and say, well, we're taking 6 people on Zoom first. And now you drove here and you didn't even get to public comment. And unfortunately, I think it for a lot of people, it makes it too easy. It's a matter of, if I want a public comment before I was on this board, I could drive, I drove down at times to public comment on issues. It'd be because I couldn't Zoom in, it wasn't available. But I think if you were that, if I'm that dedicated to whatever the cause might be, I'll figure out a way to get here. Or I'll write a letter, or I'll call all 15 people on this board if need be to get my point across. And I'm not against allowing people to Zoom in. It's just the people who actually show up have to be first in line to speak.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I represent, all the people in the county board. People know they can contact me 24/7. And I can represent them, or there's times I invite them, to come to public comment and speak. But it's our job right here is business meeting. That's number one. That's why we're here. And I represent the people 24/7. And if we're gonna get our business done, I remember when we were here till 2 o'clock in the morning, and you, Jay, you were with us. And we had recess. We didn't know if we were in recess or we legally ended the meeting, started another one. And those things will happen again. And we have a business meeting. I think it's worked very well, 3 minutes per person, a half an hour, and we go about and finish business. We'll have some plenty long meetings.
Have we had complaints from people that they aren't able to give public comment?
Never.
I mean, I've never heard anything. I've never had anybody call me about
Never.
their inability
They
to
will.
do public comment.
It depends on the issue. Amy?
So we talked about this in executive, and one of the thoughts that struck me too is that we have just recently invested in Zoom. We moved off of WebEx, which was very cumbersome. That is what I heard about a lot, was people couldn't, it was glitchy. So now we've invested in Zoom and it's working really well, and I've been getting feedback on how easier it is to hear, the audio's better. So I am for having it to be easy for people to public comment in whatever way it is. I'll send a letter, Zoom in, or come in person. And I would say on the topic of these people who have commented in the last round of the swear words and things that we heard, I can think of 2 of those. One was the minister reading comments from Mr. Magnificci's website, and that was on site. And the other one was during the CAFO conversation. That was also on site. So none of those were actually people at home in their living room. Anyway, I don't know that. I think people are very responsible at home. They're, and we can also cut them off.
Right.
We can just hit.
Denise?
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. You can control people that are on the phone. It's much easier than
On Zoom,
the ones that show up.
It's happened over the years.
Yeah. I mean, you have a gatekeeper, and a gatekeeper is just sitting there waiting, turning their end.
Go ahead, Ryan.
All it was is open season, to take shots, from what I see. Those people were taking shots, man up and several other things that wouldn't be appropriate for me to. So you're just giving them an open season to get their shot in. There's somebody on this board they don't like for some reason. So I'm for in person. They want to write something, if they want to come upstairs, be in person. I think that's what we should limit it to right there.
The things you were talking about happened in person was Supervisor Middleton's point. The things that you said that were open season happened in person.
Not all of them, not all of them. There were lots,
That's two
there were lots of
examples.
little one shots that came through on Zoom.
Is it,
Go ahead.
So,
is there a way that you could limit comments to agenda items only? You can. And I was thinking, I think Johnny mentioned.
Good point.
Comments on the committee meetings before, let's face it, when a committee puts something up to us as a whole, is it almost too late? We should get on the front end of that and get the comments. Anyway, they come in to the committee meetings that.
You got a good point. In my experience, and John's too, I'm sure, most effective input that anybody has on this committee or this group, just through public comment, is in person, beginning at a committee.
Exactly.
And expanding it out into the agenda items, because believe me, a lot of the public comment that started in committees only, and I can think of several of them over the years, started in committees and expanded to agenda items on the board itself. And that's the most effective way. Telephones are just absolutely, who's going to sit on the phone?
Minnesota, for instance, they don't have no committee meeting. You talk to your rep and that's it.
Really, that's the most effective way for anybody to do it. If you can direct them to do it, they'll get their point across, and there may be some very constructive ideas out there, but they should be able to follow the same procedure that we follow, go through a committee or go through the administrator or the attorney, follow the same procedures that we have.
It's
With the
changing
exception of the
now,
minutes.
and most of your churches, for instance, even, they have to lock their doors because of public that's out there.
Well, I think we've discussed it enough. We're gonna have to make a decision. Go ahead, Doug, one more comment.
The reason that I agree with all the comments about Zoom and is because our committee meetings are during the day. And there are some people that have jobs. I hate to say it that way, that was tacky.
Well, they can't Zoom if they're at a job either.
Well, I bet a lot of them do.
Yeah, later. They can look at it later.
A lot easier to Zoom.
There's something to consider. We'll be voting on it in next maneuver here. So anyway, you've got your discussion on that. We'll move forward. We're moving on to,
Should that be in?
all right. We need a number 10, update and change orders to government center project, whatever's going on there. You got-
Yeah.
Did we move to go into open session?
No,
we're not there yet.
We're still on number 10. Committee as a whole. Who's gonna add? All right.
Oh, I gotta turn my page.
It was suggested, I think, long ago that we wanted to keep the board informed and involved in things that are happening. And I think Mr. Olson even suggested we do it as a committee of the whole. So at this time, we're going to give you just a brief update. I'm here to kind of give you a general overview. If you have hard questions, I have Rod here with facilities who can answer them. But in general, you all know we are undergoing major changes over there. A lot of work is being done. We're on schedule. Phase 1 is on track to be done by the end of July, which is planned. Now, phase 1 consists of the main floor in the old government center and redoing that entire area.
And then also doing some transitioning of offices downstairs. So we're working on those 2 floors. We have some challenges with restrooms right now. So I suggest you all go before you come over to that building, because there may or may not be one open, as I found out. But we are on track. I've been very pleased. It does get noisy at times, but everybody's responding well. And they're trying to do most of the noisy work early in the morning before other folks get there. So that's a good job on their part. Change orders is always a big thing. We've got a few things happening. If you recall, we've got about $356,000 set up for contingencies to catch overruns or things that pop up. We are finding things. As our facilities people said, we expect to find more of the surprises early in this project, and we are finding some. Right now, the one that has been approved already by me is $30,000 for some electrical upgrades. Once we took a look at some things, the contractor said this isn't what we thought. We need to do a few other things. So that's one relatively small one. Future ones that we know we're going to stumble upon, and we're waiting to get the bids on those, are things like asbestos, which is in the first floor flooring. And so we are getting a bid now to encapsulate that. We're not going to remove it, just to say to encapsulate it. And I think the total cost there, it's like $31,000 over the $19,000 we had budgeted. We also think, though, that it's going to be a similar issue up on the second floor. Once we test those 4, and they're coming up, they'll come up to the second floor as they finish up the first phase. Other things, we're redoing some plumbing and some fixtures in the bathrooms that weren't expected. That's $60,000.
What's that? Go fixtures.
It was of all the bathrooms, the fixtures and the plumbing that needs to be changed, and it wasn't picked up by LHB in their initial thing, and then we realized that those things had to be done.
Is there a key on all that stuff? Is that like for Trump or something, gold?
Oh,
I don't know.
$60,000 for a
Exactly.
toilet?
no, it's not for a toilet. I think it's,
60,000?
yeah.
How much?
No,
maybe
that's actually for the entire, both restrooms on the second floor. That's for all the piping, to get rid of all the old galvanized, get rid of everything. Originally, when we had said that they weren't going to redo the footprint to make it ADA, they took that as we didn't want anything done, and that wasn't the case. We actually want all the piping replaced in there because we do currently have leaks. So that's all new partition, all new fixtures, and all new piping. And they have to redo some walls in there to make all that happen.
No.
So like the asbestos, they must have had inkling that they would be dealing with asbestos.
yes, and that's where we actually had some in the contingency fund planned for that, but we didn't know exactly how much.
That it?
You have questions,
Go ahead.
and like I said, well, Rod is here. Is there anything specific? But that's just the early phase. What I can tell you is LHB has done a good job of keeping us informed. If you've walked in accidentally to the main floor, the crew has been, I think, very respectful. They're helping people out when they see people. I walked in there and they came after me to say, hey, can I help you? And made sure that if I was there, I had my hard hat on, glasses, and all that. So, respect that.
So are we,
Go ahead.
are we looking at more change orders yet in phase 1? We've on phase 1 and we've still got 2 months to go on it. We've used half of our total contingency already.
Right, and we,
And assuming that it's going to be another 31,000 to encapsulate the asbestos on the second floor.
so, yes, we can expect more change orders. Now, we hope that it is front loaded a little bit as they get into these things and get behind the walls and do those types of things. But we are watching that closely. We also are starting to watch now where we are finding savings. And one I know
Rod had talked about the plumbing chases, which were to be removed in our offices or in certain offices. We discovered we don't need to remove them, but rather do some things on the outside of it to be much more cost effective. So, we'll add all these things together, and our goal is to come in on budget or under, if at all possible.
Any more questions?
They've been able to get materials then. It's not nothing's setting them behind.
They're on schedule.
So far, I mean, we gotta make sure that windows get here when they're supposed to, the roofing material and the phase 3 portion. That's something that we're staying on because quite frankly, that could delay the roof in the next.
And some of the other issues they're having with deliveries, the chillers aren't supposed to be here until February or March of next year.
And the generator.
So they're hoping that they can get those earlier, but there is some delays in some of the stuff.
But it hasn't delayed anything to date.
No,
That's good.
currently there hasn't been any delays.
Oh, that's good.
I think we're pretty fortunate.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, need a motion to reconvene in the regular.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor of reconvene, to adjourn a committee as a whole and convene into county board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Number 11 on your agenda. We have a motion to act on matters considered and recommended by the committee as a whole, as noticed, the ones that we've just been discussing. We've got some under resolution.
Well, so we're right now, I think we would go to the rules of order, and we pretty much consent regarding the extension and ag going to environmental services.
That was,
So that we can consent or vote on, but then also the public comment, that's where we will have to take a motion.
okay. So the number. The public consent is what?
That is somebody next.
That's after.
Yeah, number 11, after we reconvene. And
We have reconvened.
So now number 11, we act on those matters. And that's basically public comment.
On number 12,
We're number 11.
or 11, I mean, the ones that we talked about at committee as a whole, we need a motion to reconsider the
Rules of order.
yeah, the rules of order.
A motion that number 11 be struck.
Second. Motion made and seconded to strike the rules of order on the general government, not general government. That was number 11.
Maybe you could just vote on that. I think there was a consensus.
In a general consensus, we pretty much agreed on that one.
Right, and I think, yeah, Supervisor Warrendall just wants to finalize that.
So that's Division 2, Rules of Order Procedure, the general government, just strike number 11 under general government. Is that the motion?
That was the motion.
Okay, and seconded. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now the discussion on public comment. We have that's the other issue only that we considered basically. So what is your best description of what you want on the Division 2 Rules of Order and the Procedures on number 14, public comment?
Mr. Chair, I would move and make a motion that we remain in public comment as has been in the past.
In the
30
past,
30 minutes, 3 minutes per person. think we've been effective. I think we're all receptive to listening to the people.
So what is your amendment? I mean, what is your?
I move that our public comments remain the same, 30 minutes total of, in total, and 3 minutes per person, live,
Live only?
live, yes.
We've been using allowing, well, basically is what we've had.
Just to remain the same, is my
Well,
motion.
Okay, we have allowed,
Go ahead.
we have allowed virtual.
Right. If
Well,
you wanted to consider
earlier,
virtual
we're not
also.
now.
That's what we've been doing.
My motion is to remain the same.
That's what we've been doing, and that's the same, right? Is that your motion? Yep. Okay, Amy, what did you have?
I would make a motion that we. Oh, no, is that on the floor? We're amending his. That we.
There has been a second.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
What's the motion?
Don't make a motion.
Just one motion, one person make a motion.
We got a second.
I second.
There's a motion.
You got second on Johnny's motion? Okay,
We're discussing just here.
it's still in discussion. The motion is made and seconded. Now, I need a discussion, if any, on, Amy, what do you?
And I could amend or discuss John's that we take public comment in person with priority given to the people who are on site, Zoom, and people can send in letters.
What to do with the letter? I mean,
Well, when we get
certainly-
letters, like when we get letters.
Well, I know everybody gets letters. You read them?
Yeah.
Are you gonna read them at the,
At the meeting or?
at the meeting or what?
We often do.
No. I don't
Are
think
they-
we've ever allowed
You
that.
want to say meeting minutes, letters 24 hours in advance?
And what are you gonna do with it?
What's like a public comment? You would read it. You would read it.
Who's gonna read it?
It's to the supervisor.
On your own.
Which supervisor's gonna read it?
No, read it out loud.
They'll be sent to us at home on our computers.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna receive you're allowed, what you're allowing is everything considered plus a letter to be used for what purpose? I don't know. Are you gonna have the clerk sit up and read every letter that comes in?
Is your point, oh, I see, you're asking the question, whether or not it matters as a public comment, legally as a public.
Or you just want to file a letter somewhere?
Because people comment anyway. So, okay, let me, I understand what you're saying. Comments taken in person with priority given to people who are on site and on Zoom. Period. And that will be consistent throughout county board and.
In the meeting.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Are we doing competing motions or is this part of the discussion on Mr. Bonapry's motion?
This is discussion on Bonapry's motion, and she wants to make a amendment to his motion.
So there's two ways to handle it. You could either Supervisor Middleton ask Supervisor Bonaprise if that would be a friendly amendment. In other words, you're clarifying what his intent was using those words. And if it was a friendly and the first and the second agree, you don't need to move to amend. Why don't you check first and see if your clarification is consistent with what his intent is.
I think my motion is just plain and simple. We have committee meetings. We had discussion about some of this comment should be brought at committee meetings, but the business meeting should be 30 minutes total, as we have had in the past. And
Can I clarify that?
Yes.
You're recommending it, public comments be in person?
in person,
In person. What about letters?
those should be brought at committee meetings or as a supervisor, we receive letters, we represent them. That's my job.
And John, would you take a friendly amendment from me that said in person and on Zoom? And then letters.
I just can't understand, you know, I've listened to Wisconsin counties and that is why some of the counties don't allow any comments at all. I think we've got an open line from everybody through the committee, Amy, and through being in person.
Just a minute, Johnny, but to clarify that, your motion was to do exactly what we've been doing, and Zoom was part of what we were doing.
Well, not really.
No,
but
we
not
haven't
from
said
others.
the Zoom matter.
They had to be in person only.
Right.
Does that clarify your question?
Well, didn't we used to have Zoom? I think you're right, Jay. I don't know when we just kind of.
No, we didn't have Zoom. Basically, I think Zoom was confused with people going up and using our
Room,
in
not
the
somebody's.
room.
Oh,
They were in person on the premises using our television to communicate with us.
That could be a form of Zoom, yeah.
Well, it is, I think.
Could that be
That's
a form
not
of
what I was
endorsement?
Yeah, we used to have Zoom allowed back in the heat of COVID,
Correct.
when that was the only way people couldn't,
It was done on occasion, but seldom that I recall.
and then we stopped.
well, if somebody was in person here today, they would be on Zoom.
Correct.
For us to see them.
So that's in person.
But any word? Okay. Kim,
So on John's, just to clarify, if we don't have enough room here, in person would still be if they were in the room next door. And on here. Okay, I think that's what we should
Okay,
say.
now Amy, is that,
I'm saying they have to be here, but we have to have that.
they
Is
gotta
what
be
he's saying.
here,
So,
then that's
all
what
right.
I understand now. Amy, do you understand that as,
That part. And so my question, I think it would be not a friendly amendment. I don't know what that means we do now. Because I was saying that it would. What would it mean? But my point was, they're on site and in person, John's definition. I'm saying also Brad's point about those people are priority and somebody can call in from home.
So you
On
could
Zoom.
either wait and see if his is defeated and then make a new motion, or you could move to amend his motion
Yeah.
to allow those things with those parameters.
You have to vote on my motion.
well, she can
Yeah, she
still
amended.
amend it.
Okay. So
You want to amend Johnny's
Yeah.
motion?
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion.
So I amend John's motion to add comments taken in the way, whatever is on site, meaning on site, and Zoom from home, with priority given to the people who have come in the time slot. So if 30 people use up the time slots on site,
Well, the
we don't
time
go to.
slots stay. Okay.
Is there a second?
So, yeah, I didn't say that very well, but
Got a second to that?
Second.
So now you need to discuss Amy's amendment and then vote on it. If it
Any
passes,
discussion on that amendment?
Just one clarification.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think we've got on-site virtual, but either way or in the room, and Zoom from home.
with the priority given to the people who are on site for if there's a time slot problem.
That's fine.
All right. Did you have something, Dan? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. So how are we gonna regulate that the person that's coming in on Zoom is even from our county? You could have somebody from California Zoom into our meeting.
there is
We don't
no,
know. And if they want to make the investment to come to our meeting from California, amen. But to let them jump in on Zoom, I don't think is representative of what the county should be looking
We've
at.
often had people from out of the county on our, many times on issues, and we will continue to have them. Believe me, when COVID comes up again, I mean, comes up again, we're going to definitely have
That's
that.
exactly why I had Wisconsin County.
Okay, any more discussion on her more, do we have a second? We've got a second, we have discussion. All in favor of Amy's amendment to that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Roll call.
Okay. So we have to start with Doug Rowdy. Do you want to approve the amendment? Okay. Steve Wornall,
No.
Ryan Wood,
Yes.
Tracy LeBlanc,
No.
Dan Ruck,
No.
Barbara McAfee,
Yes.
Sharon Kelly,
No.
Tim O'Connell,
No.
Amy Middleton.
Yes.
Jay Luke, oh, he doesn't do roll call, correct. Denise Lallier-Pray,
Yes.
Russ Arkand,
No.
CJ Simmons,
No.
John Bonaprise.
No.
The yeses have 5 and the
How about
noes
Brad?
have 8. Oh, sorry, Brad, I forgot about you. Go ahead, Mr. Olson.
Smooth, Brad. You're out.
Every time.
You're at the top. So I must-
Right away. No.
No, okay. So we're 5 yeses and 9 noes.
Okay, that motion denied. Now, we need a clarification on John's motion without the amendment. You want to clarify that motion a little bit for us one more
So
time?
I have John Bonaprise and then seconded by Simmons is to remain public comment as it has been 3 minutes up to 30 minutes to accept in person, which means also in the next room virtually, which in the next room here on campus. And I believe to also accept letters and emails because that's what we've also been doing, which means not Zoom.
All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now,
Yeah, well, you know. I don't believe in the First Amendment, so.
Now we're-
Yes. Okay, what do you
Yeah,
got?
no,
I'm
yeah,
funny.
resolution.
Wait. This
Okay,
way.
ordinance resolution number 2122, amending the Polk County Code of Ordinances. Need a motion on updating them or approving the code.
So you're really then voting on the resolution 2622.
Is what we did just now.
No, you just
Oh,
clarified
wait a
the public
minute.
comment.
You
So
want us to
now
do D next?
D is just then adopting formally all of the changes that you've already agreed to.
E,
D as in
D.
Dow.
that's 2622. Amending the code of ordinances. Need a motion on it.
Motion to approve all the changes.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the changes. All in favor signify by saying, got any discussion on it?
Discussion,
Yeah, go ahead.
please,
Go.
discussion. So I have a question, so, the ordinance, no, not ordinance. Okay. Change from 250 up to 1,000 people.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No,
That's a different one.
That's.
That's
We're still
back on the
We're
board.
still on the rules of order.
We're still
Sorry.
rules of order.
Oh,
This
sorry.
state-
21, 22.
26,
26, 22.
All right, I'm on the wrong 22, sorry. Oh,
So now I think you can go back to just voting on the non-controversial.
Okay, that's,
I thought we already did that.
you're ready to vote on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or same sign. Okay, that's passed. Now you won.
Now I'm on track.
Now we're on 2122. Large public
On the
assembly.
assemblies, there was a,
Is there a motion, Rick?
need a motion on 2122.
I'll make the motion to bring it to the floor.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to bring 21 to 22 to the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or same sign. Any discussion?
Okay, so the change in, from 250 to 1,000. For large assemblies. I did call and ask a few questions. And so having been from Somerset, I know that the conditional use permit is used for the big rock festival that go on there. And we can have 30 to 40,000 people. So I'm having a little disconnect. Is this something that the municipalities that do not have conditional use applications would potentially use for large gatherings?
I can answer that question. So the only application for a permit of this kind in Polk County is the event at Trollhagen once a year. So it applies only in those unincorporated areas. And so that's, does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
yeah, okay, so potentially, probably not apply to anything. Okay. I still have a couple of recommendations. No, nothing big.
Oh. Go ahead,
Okay.
make a motion.
Well, I'm just still discussing in the, so on page 2 of 5, under section 5, we're talking about minimum EMTs, 1 staff per 1,000.
Right.
And then we indicate that we have a maximum. So I guess I was just thinking about 40,000 people. Why would you, it would be like ridiculous to have a maximum of 5. So why even have a maximum? You just keep it at 1 trained EMT per, and support staff, because you never have just 1, right? So I didn't understand how you're having, you have a minimum of 1 EMT per 1,000, but then you have, you're attaching a maximum to it.
Should have a minimum.
Right.
I can answer that too.
Okay.
This is not my area of expertise, but if Brian Hobbs were here, I believe he would tell you that he has added this language consistent with health regulations. And so it's certainly not something where you have to, abide by it, but this is what the requirement is for his level of oversight as the public health. That's why that was picked.
Okay.
Could be wrong, but and I think we talked about this in Gen Gov, but I think the way that the language goes is the maximum staffing requirement doesn't mean that you can only have up to 5. It's that requirement will only, like, the requirement is capped out at 5. You can have more than 5 staff on hand, but the requirement to be there is capped at 5.
I mean, I'm used to seeing that. I'm used to seeing a full medical suite with the sheriff's looking at me. Oh yeah, I know what that's all about, right? Like 50 medical people on site for large events. So I
Can we have
mean,
Chair Watt comment on this?
Well,
it's public safety.
We haven't ever had events that are 40,000 people. We're talking troll hogging, the mud runs once a year, pretty much.
we will never have a 40,000.
Oh, never say never.
Not under this, without our ability.
That's what they said in Woodstock.
Well, I
Just
think as a
saying.
practical matter, you're not. As a practical matter, we're not gonna see a
I
40,000
propose-
foot or 40,000 person gathering.
I would just propose striking the maximum and just keep it at sufficient staff for.
Which one is?
Number 5.
I can't remember which one.
Agenda packet, page 12.
I've read it. But
I asked the same question at Temple Health, Brian, since it ran, it's run by Brian, and he's
Yeah.
the health guy.
Number 5.
Figured he knows what he's talking about, so I agreed with what Brian put in here. It is saying minimum of 1.
Now, there's nothing requiring you to act on this today. If you had a question about this, you could certainly refer it back to committee to get a better explanation, because this is not time sensitive. It hasn't been changed in a very long time.
Right.
Sounds good.
Good reason.
There is no opinion from any committee on.
It went through general government.
Are there any other objections to this that we might adjourn this to or postpone it to be considered by a committee again?
I have a number of them. So this is my value. So hazardous weather plan under number 13 needs to be added. I'm sorry. Oh, boy. Let me go back. This is on page 3. On number 12, instead of saying unreasonably, you're asking somebody to be reasonable or unreasonable about noise. 3 and 5. 3 to 5.
Would we be better off in this case, just sending this back to
I
committee
think so.
rather than trying to
Yeah, I
amend
can
and?
just include my markups and.
Why don't you do that and
You can make a motion.
you
I'll
could,
make a motion to send it back to committee.
okay. Motion made and seconded to send this ordinance back to committee for
Which committee?
reconsideration.
Agenda.
Okay.
Is there a second? Did we make that?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now, this should consider her notes in order to, does anybody else? Why don't you just read the,
I think what she should do, Mr. Chair, if I may, is take her markup if she's satisfied with it. Send it to the clerk and the clerk will include that in the packet at the committee and then she can certainly appear at the committee and speak as a member not seated.
okay,
Mr. Chair,
that, you, go ahead.
maybe we should have the staff member there as well. So,
Yes,
I mean,
Mr. Hobbs.
we have staff
Yeah.
that understands why they put this wording in there.
Right.
They should be there to
Well, that's part of
explain
the-
why
All
they
right.
put the wording in.
Would we do this at the agenda of the committee that is referred back to?
Yeah, I think that the clerk has it noted and we'll make sure it's on the next general government committee agenda.
Have something, Bob, you want to add?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just to
Go
provide
ahead.
some context. This ordinance has been around a while. It's antiquated. Last year, we codified and updated all of our ordinances. This one, unfortunately, simply fell through the cracks. A team comprised of Brian Hobbs, he's our public health officer, Jason Cheeziff, our zoning administrator, Chad Roberts, and myself provided these provisions. So just provide some context and some staff spent some time updating.
All right, how are we gonna get this on the agenda for the committee? And which committee is going back to public protection? General
That part has
government.
been taken care of.
That was part of the motion.
Part of the motion to carry it up to, back to general government. And we have, where are we standing on the motion? Ready to go, we passed it. All right. We're moving on. 2522 resolution B and 12. Operating and capital budget to incorporate additional capital expenditures for the Justice Center, Polk County, museum of economically related increases.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded on resolution 2522. Any comment on it? Go ahead, Amy.
Point of order, did we miss 2422?
Consent agenda. Where
Yeah,
to begin?
that was consent agenda. We're just a little confused over here.
Go to the
Yeah,
front.
sorry.
Does
I
it
was
say,
trying to-
does it say amended?
We
Look
have
at your first page. Does it say amended?
That's what I'm
Right
trying to
on the,
follow.
right here. 2422.
There,
Flip your page back
yeah.
to the front.
It's not that one.
It was in the consent agenda.
It's this. No, it's this one.
Yeah, it's out. It's on the front page. See it?
That's already done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we passed that in the consent agenda. That is
That was
simply.
along with the consent agendas. That was already passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're still back to 26, 20, 25, 22. And we have a motion to adopt.
Oh, wait, motion to adopt.
And seconded? Okay. Any discussion on it? Go ahead.
This resolution had a similar discussion back in December because we bundled a bunch of issues together. And now we've done it again. And if you are in favor of part of it, you vote for it. If you're against part of it, but you really like some of it, I'm going to vote against it because I don't like all the parts of it. And I think we should be doing these individually so we can have more discussion of them and then up or down on one issue, 2 issues, 3 issues, 4 issues, because there's 4 issues here. We've got them bundled together. So we brought that up last December and discussed it, and here we are again.
It's not good government.
No, it's not.
I agree.
Kind of like the chair, the vice chair. It was chairs, it was bundled. It's never been bundled before either. So I don't know why we're bundling, but.
I think this should be sent back
Make a
to the
motion.
sponsors and they could redo it and bring it back to us at another time. None of it's time sensitive.
Well, leak your roof, maybe.
Are you moving to postpone to a date certain? Or are you
No,
moving to
not
send
a
it
date
back to
certain, in the
committee?
future.
Go ahead and discussion again.
The roof is definitely time sensitive. I mean, just about everything right now is time sensitive, the way the prices are going up. So we're looking at this, to get these funds allocated to do this, basically to get out some bids. So if anything goes over or whatever or changes, it goes back to general government anyway.
I thought we had
Basically,
approved the roof.
it's not been approved. It's on the capital improvement plan for 25. So do we wait and wreck half our ceilings till 25?
Oh, I thought that was.
So that's some of the things. But I mean, each one of these, you separate them out, we'll have 2, 4 sitting there and argue about. So let's either do them together, do it whatever, I guess, however you want. But I'm thinking we should basically put these out for bids, see where we're at, and then vote on each one after they come through general government and they come back. All of them will come back. Yeah. Doesn't mean, I mean, what if the roof comes back at $4 million? Are we gonna do it or not? Then nothing else will get done. If the museum comes back at 90,000, do we still fix it or not? I mean, we have to decide what we're gonna fix and not do or do, I think.
Would we do this by motion to separate them individually and bring them back to general government?
You have a couple of different options. One would be move to amend and remove 2 or 3 and leave 1 and vote on it. You could, somebody could make a motion to send it back to general government committee and ask them to separate it into separate resolutions. So you could do it either by amending it here on the floor today and piecemeal, or you could send it back to general government. Those are 2 of your options.
So we'll do
Is there another
that.
option to send it out for bids
This
so
be
that
the
we know
option.
what the real numbers are?
Point of order.
Go ahead, yeah.
Again, we have a motion on the
Right.
floor to approve
Correct.
this resolution, so,
And this is or amended.
well, that I guess we can have another motion to amend it, but there's a
Right.
motion right now to approve.
And are we discussing it?
Yeah, I have a
Well, right,
discussion.
we're in discussion, but I,
Discussion now, does someone
Yeah.
want to amend this ordinance? To either send it back to general government and individualize each issue and bring it back, or how do you want to go about it?
I'd make that motion to send it to general government individually. We can look at it individually.
But there's already, the motion that you could make that would be in order right now would be to amend it, because there is a first and a second to approve.
Right.
If that is defeated, then you can move to send it to committee. Just for a point of information, because this is couched as a budget amendment, staff does have more information on cost of one of these particular items that is different than what's in there, at least on its face, so we can provide that information to you. So it would need to be amended to reflect the actual budgetary impact.
All right.
But that's
now,
not a procedural.
The motion has been actually to be amended by Steve. Do you want to read that amendment back?
By Doug.
No, there hasn't been a motion to amend. She just said that he can't make that motion unless this one is dealt with first, the approval.
Because his motion was to send it to general government, and right now you have to deal with the current motion, so you can amend it. Make a motion to amend it and remove all but one thing if you wanted.
Well, he made a motion to amend.
No, he made
That's
a
not the
motion
way
to
I heard it.
approve. No, I made a motion, Steve made a motion to approve.
Yeah, I made a motion to approve.
Or to approve.
I call the question.
Yeah, all in favor?
What are we voting on?
Roll call.
Voting on the
Okay, so
resolution.
we're doing a roll call vote on the original motion to
Right.
approve this resolution.
Yes.
Okay, so Steve Wornall,
Yes.
Ryan Wood,
No.
Tracy LeBlanc,
No.
Dan Ruck,
Yes.
Barbara McAfee.
No.
Sharon Kelly,
Yes.
Tim O'Connell,
Yes.
Amy Middleton,
No.
Jay Luke, Skip Denise Lallier Prey,
No.
Russ Arkan,
Yes.
CJ Simmons,
Yes.
John Bonaprise, Brad Olson,
Yes.
Doug Rowdy.
No.
We have a tie vote
Yes.
and
It takes a 2/3 majority because this is a budget amendment, so it fails.
What was the numbers? What was the numbers?
7-7
And then 7 to 8.
and then 7-8.
Okay. Now we need.
Question. Vince, didn't you have a bid number on the museum roof? I thought.
Well, that's, we may have, but it's voted down anyway. Oh, okay.
It isn't the roof on the museum, it's the structure of the bell tower.
I don't think you can.
No.
There may be something on that, but that'll.
Okay, you said, I thought she said once it was defeated, then you make a motion to send it back.
See.
Jay.
Yep, go ahead.
I don't think anybody has an issue with any of these needing attention,
Exactly.
but it's the bundle. You know what I'm saying? That, it just, it's not, to me, it doesn't look like good business. We're trying to like cram too many things in a,
Sure, but it's
if
voted
we come
down.
to them all together individually,
And we don't have anything on the agenda to relate to it now.
right?
So, okay, Amy, what do you have?
Well, I was just only gonna follow up on Tracy, the larger concept with this that I didn't get to say in discussion is that we're talking about ARPA money and whether or not this is an appropriate use of ARPA money, I think we should discuss. I mean, we kind of had a concept going of a process of how we were gonna figure out where the ARPA money went to, and we never followed it. We kind of petered away. And I also feel like everything on this list is valued and important to fund, and we should figure out how to fund it. But the ARPA money, we should have a discussion about, because this is all about Balsam Lake. It's nothing for the rest of our counties. So that would be a
Point of
different
order.
discussion. I know. But
Point of order.
Now, the
There's
resolution
no
is.
motion on the floor.
Yes.
The discussion's over.
Yes. It was voted down. We are now discussing confirmation of appointments by the county board chair. You want a list of the appointments. Does anybody need to? Go ahead.
What you have in front of you, this sheet right here, is the appointments that have been discussed by Chairman Luke or myself. Excuse me, and on the far right-hand side, or left-hand side, you see who has the appointing authority. On most of these, it's the chair, on occasion, the county administrator. you have the committee or the organization that we're recommending be assigned. We have the past or current supervisor or person to that committee. And then after discussions with all of you, I believe, or I think we may have made an assumption or two, we knew some people wanted to continue. We have put who is recommended by the chairman and a couple down there by myself. The far right-hand column is simply a matter of, does the board need to confirm it, or is it simply an appointment by Chairman Luke? This would be a time if any of you see any issues or problems to bring it up.
The museum's not on this list, should it be on the list?
Pardon?
The museum is not on this list.
Should it be on the list?
It can be, yeah. And
Seemed to
I
me,
think it was on my handwritten list.
Yeah, it was, because I
That
talked about
would
it.
be you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
and that was an appointment by me.
Yes.
And Sharon has a,
You want to vote
I'm gonna, but Sharon has a real interest in the museum and is putting a lot of effort into it. We've discussed that along with another appointment of hers. So I need a confirmation of Sharon to be on the museum committee.
Well, we can do all of these.
And yeah, we're gonna do them all, but I want her to be listed as a appointment by me to the museum.
And you have the power to do this, so you're adding.
But I need confirmation. So I'm gonna ask for confirmation of all of my appointments and the appointments of the administrator all at the same time. So if there's any of these that are contested by any member of the board, speak now or don't vote. But,
Okay. We've got her.
all right, what is it?
We're down on,
NORTAC has been changed. And this is county board confirmation by me. Ben Effett, Elfeld, yeah. You misspelled it.
He is our Parks and Trails
Yeah.
person.
Elfeld. Okay, so add him to the NORTAC committee and remove Doug. So other than that, there's no changes in the museum and the NORTAC change. Any other questions on our commission? Go ahead, Steve.
The request that you find somebody else for the
Where?
WCWRC.
Oh, with Central Wisconsin Regional
Oh.
Planning.
I took that position. Chris called me and asked me if I'd fill in until the end of the year. And, I wish we could find somebody else to take that position.
Well, that's your appointment. No, this is mine. What did we decide on that? We didn't know that people were.
No, we didn't know that. I apologize. I remember at one of the meetings, Tracy said, hey, she wanted to switch. So Steve, if you want off, is there anyone else who would be interested in the regional planning?
Russ, will you take that? Okay. Put Russ down in place of Steve, right?
They're an awesome group, Russ.
And you're getting off the awesome group? Is that what you're saying?
I am.
Okay. So Tracy, we need somebody to replace Tracy.
We already
Yeah,
did.
we already
Denise Allier Prey has taken that.
Oh, where do you see that? Oh, gotcha. All right, Steve is gone. Denise is in. Okay, everybody got those changes?
I move for approval as proposed by the administrator and our county chair with the changes as presented.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to approve as implicated on the on the committee members. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. That's the end of that.
Well, we got one more.
Oh, we got the county board.
Lake District.
Now, these are already the county administrators.
Well, no, this is, we're still in the same item. They're,
Yeah, the lake, I know. Yeah, I got you. I'm trying to find the, here we go. the Lake District. Does everybody have a copy of the Lake Districts that were signed? Anybody not have a copy of the Lake? Need a motion to approve the district?
Two of them with three people.
Yeah, that's right. You can have, take them all if you want. You want any?
he's talking about.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Minutes you go. There's 3 lakes, split them up.
Okay, Mr. Chair, who would like to do balsam? Do we leave it to the citizen or just Ryan?
Or do we need a?
Need a motion to approve these, don't we?
You want- Yeah, but we're not putting 3 people on.
No.
So we should ask right now if they want to do it. Is what I'm
A
saying.
motion is made to approve this to discussion and approval by the individuals that are assigned for one.
If I may
Go
explain.
ahead and explain.
Okay. What we did was the Environmental Services Committee is responsible for nominating people to cover the Lake Districts. So we went through where people live and what lake districts were in their districts. In most cases, there was one individual, with maybe a majority, and that person then chose, we contacted or they've been on it and they will be the representative. In some cases, other people volunteer to cover a lake in someone else's district because, for example, I think Mr. Rowdy has 4 or so, and other people will move over to cover for them. So that's okay. Down the list, though, when you see Balsam Lake has 2 supervisors who are, or whose districts touch the lake. Historically, Mr. Mariani, a citizen, has been appointed by the board to represent the county, and his job is to communicate to, in this case, it would be Mr. Wood and Mr. Ruck. The environmental or the the executive committee reviewed this and said they agreed. And by the way, the Lake District did send me a letter and the former chairman asking that Mr. Mariani continue to be the representative for the county. So that's who the executive committee recommended, and his name is in red to highlight that. So as you go down, the only one that the executive committee did not decide upon was the Church Pine, Round, and Big District. And there are 2 people who are involved there. And so we can decide, or you can decide in this group, who you would like to recommend it. So we would ask Mr. Bonaprise and Mr. Simonez if they have a preference.
I would suggest we both be on there. You can just have one. Just one. Don't give it to me. I live about a mile from there. And
the reason CJ has a first bite is because his district covers more shoreline of the lake. That's the only reason. So you're both eligible. So if you two, if one of you wants it more than the other, that might be a good way to decide who takes.
I don't really have a preference. I didn't even know about it till I saw my name on. Well, that's number 1, I don't care.
You want to make a change?
Oh, okay. All right, that worked.
Johnny, you're gonna take it?
I'll do it for this session and then we don't do it for the next.
Right.
Okay.
No reference on.
We got John on Church Pine. The other change was,
Well,
decide whether or not we
The committee recommended Mr. Mariano.
Yeah.
So if they vote to approve all of these, we'll do that, but if you want to have comment and change that, you can do that.
We got a motion to approve these and still in discussion to,
Part of the discussion, Jay, is there's no comment. I think
we got you covered.
I think we voted a couple of years ago, no compensation.
Always been confusion on these things. Ryan or Daniel, are you any contesting of Dave to be on this committee?
No, not if they recommended it.
So, yes.
Rather not. No need
All
to
right,
be
I don't
there.
blame you. All right. We have a motion then to approve these.
We have a first.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now the discussions have been completed already. So all in favor of approving this without discussion? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, you're on the Lake District as depicted. Now we have believe me, you've understood already what the board chairman's report is. We're at, we got, first we want to talk about the,
You and I both don't have.
right. Now, the county board chair report is pretty well depicted by the confusion in the meeting, so. But it wasn't my fault. We need a report on substance abuse.
Wait a minute, the administrator has a report.
We pretty much, he's the cause of the confusion.
I know. These 26 pages will go by quick. Okay. Fair update. Attorney Loso, our assistant corporation counsel, has reached out to the attorney for the Fair Board. And for all of you who don't know, the executive committee will be representing the county. They will have their first meeting on May 31st. So next few days, those in the executive committee will be receiving materials to prep you for that session, kind of giving you some background information. Good news, Osceola closed a tax incremental district not too long ago, and it's been reviewed by the state. Polk County will be receiving in 2023, next year, approximately $224,000. Tax incremental district paid off pretty well for them and us. ARPA funds. Want to talk about that some more? The second tranche is coming. It will arrive in our account this week, we think, next few days. So it's already, they told us it will be on its way. So that $4.25 million or so is in fact going to be here.
We can draw interest.
Pardon?
We can draw interest.
Well, we will draw interest when it sits in an account. You're right. And dam grants. If you recall, we've got two dams that we've applied for grants. Clam Falls and Atlas Feed Mill Dam, both of which have been, in essence, approved by the DNR. So that will help us a lot. Now, we don't get the money yet. We have to meet the conditions of the grant. But what they do is send us a letter and says your information has been received and your application is accepted. Now we just have to follow the guidelines and we'll get money. So Clam Falls, which is the big expensive one, right? If we go over the 2 million amount, then we split 50-50 with this grant up to 800,000, Bob, or 800,000. So $400,000 savings if we have to go over that. I want to thank ESC and Ben Elfelt who really worked on submitting that grant. Yes.
What's the condition or the price of the applicant? I looked at that last week. Boy, that's
How much was that, Bob? Do you know right off the top?
I don't want to misspeak. I don't know off the top of my head. I can get it to you later though.
It is a pretty good chunk, but nothing like Clam Falls.
it needs work.
Okay, and just so you know, John, we We are submitting 2 resolutions from Polk County to go to the WCA for their annual meeting for consideration for the full body. One was the resolution dealing with the elimination of the Badger Care eligibility cliff. Again, it was a lobbying resolution. And then another lobbying resolution was asking the state to increase their funding of emergency service organizations to give what they commit to keep them funded.
And I'll speak and present both of them.
Yes. Northwood Tech, our good neighbor. We were very excited to get them into Polk County not too long ago. COVID did not help them, but they're ready to try and do more and have a bigger presence right here in Polk County. I've been collaborating with them with a new sign at our north entrance on that driveway there. And that sign would be like a 5x7 sign, which will have Polk County and its new logo, and we'll have Northwood Tech down below. And then we will direct people as they come in that driveway, either they go to Northwood Tech or they go to the county building. And so we are working at, they will pay for the sign. The county will simply dig in the electricity and pay the electricity for the electric sign that lights from the inside.
You need any approval from the city or village?
We go through the state and the village to make sure we're within their ordinances.
Thank you.
Another great bit of news, the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, has again awarded Polk County the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This basically says that our folks do a great job of being open, disclosing our finances, reporting it, putting it in a publication that supervisors and the citizens can read. We've done this several years in a row, but hats off to Chad, the Department of Administration, the staff there that does a good job and gives a lot of us headaches to make sure we do things on the up and up that gets reported. So I think that's very good news. Finally, I'll give you a quick update on COVID. COVID numbers are increasing in Polk County. Nothing like they were, but they're increasing. We are averaging about 12 a day of late. That's more. We'd like it to be 0, right? So we do have to keep our eye on that. We do have testing on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 to 12, and on Thursdays from 9 to 5. And then vaccines are available Thursdays from 11 to 6:30. If there's any good news in this thing, and you don't want to say there's any good news with COVID, but for several weeks now, we've not had any hospitalization. So the numbers are going up. We're not seeing that. And, you know, I'm no doctor or scientist, but I would say having the vaccines has helped some people. People taking good practices are good. We want to encourage them to continue to do that, and we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Thank
That's all
you.
I have.
Anybody have any questions? Representative report. Substance abuse.
So before you is the monthly substance abuse report card. Due to staffing issues in some departments, we weren't able to pull together March last month. So I told you I would give you March and April. I really kind of like this actually, and I think I may do this each month, the previous month and the current month, because it gives you a good example of a comparison. A couple things that I think are important to point out. You look at the law enforcement statistics, the number of jail bookings was identical, and the number of substance abuse related as opposed to not substance abuse related were almost identical, which is odd. The drugs of choice month over month are almost identical, the breakdowns as far as percentages. The first time offenders versus repeat offenders, again, there's a clear trend there that's identical. Substance abuse charges filed by the DA, consistent, see there. Treatment court participants, there's a couple good things in the light here. Although we have the same number of participants, you will notice that our referrals, for the first time in a long time, we actually have 3 referrals. Our referrals are going up, and we have people in the pipeline for treatment. That's due to the incredible work that the CJCC staff is doing regarding assessments and new methods and really getting partner participation. So we should see those numbers to give the new members background. 17 is our maximum in treatment coordinating one time. And then the last page is the comparison of judicial sentences handed down for meth-related charges in March and in April. It's 7 defendants sentenced in March, 8 defendants sentenced in April. So again, consistencies. And if you go down and break through the sentences handed down, you look at that, there's a lot of consistency in those as well. So I guess it's neither good nor bad, other than to say the trend holds. I look back over history, this is the trend. But I think I'll start giving you previous month and current month, because I think this is actually a little better for you.
Thanks, Brad. Any supervisors that have any comments in reference to meetings they've been at that might be informational to the rest of the board?
Mr. Chair, can I ask?
Go ahead.
Our sheriff, employment status and any updates on?
Well, yeah, we're a couple positions short in patrol. We are in the process of hiring 6 applicants for 2 positions. We used to get hundreds. We're 4 positions down in the jail, but we're hiring 2 that are starting this week, but we will lose 2 more in a couple weeks. So we're going to be consistently 4 down in the jail.
Can I ask you, what's hourly rate you advertise on the jail? I had a continuing argument with our former administrator that they didn't even advertise for a fair rate.
Well, when we get back to budget time this year, we've got some comparison wage to talk about, and I think we need to bump our jail wage up.
We certainly do to hire, but.
Well, it's to retain the ones we have.
And we need them.
Yep. But since I was asked to comment, I got one thing I'd like to say is June 14th at noon, we are going to be touring the jail. And I would invite every new supervisor or those supervisors who have not toured the jail yet to come over and do that. We feed you a meal. It's not filet mignon, but it's jail food, but it's edible, and we'll take an inspection tour of the jail. So I would encourage you guys to do that. It's a very nice facility, and we're happy to show it off. And statutorily, I'm required to do that once a year.
What's the time again, sir?
It'll be at noon.
Public safety.
Yes.
Protection meeting.
Mr. Chair, Sheriff Walk is here at every meeting and he doesn't have a place in our agenda. And I think we should certainly have a comment at every meeting from what's going on in our county. He's our chief county officer.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to follow up on the sheriff's comment, because I've taken the tour several times. I really think, personally, I think you supervisors should consider taking the tour once, just to see what we have for an operation.
Certainly.
It is really, it is something undeniable.
That's interesting.
And if I could get a head count, say by like the first week of June, just so I know how many meals to have ready, I'd appreciate it. So.
Contact you directly, or?
You can send that to me,
Yeah.
because I'll head count of supervisors and staff that will be there.
Make sure it's on the agenda.
And there's already a notice out.
If I'm not able to be in attendance that day, is there a date I can schedule to do that?
Sure.
Anybody else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made to adjourn and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. No discussion.
What do we discuss?
Motion to adjourn.